All right, we're back, and in this video we're going to talk about action centers. Okay, so we talked about item centers in the last video. The action center has no relation whatsoever to an item's center. Okay, action centers are just as they sound. They're the place in which the action of a tool happens. Okay, so when I go into a component mode, let's turn snapping off. When I go into a component mode and I make a selection and then activate a tool, where that tool lives in the world is the action center, okay? Because that's what's gonna, if I scale, that's where it's happening from, right? Okay. So no need to get both of those confused. Item centers and action centers. Action centers are the ones that you're gonna be playing with the most. And in this video, I'm not gonna go overly in depth on action centers. There's some great stuff out there on action centers. In fact, I really recommend in my document here this link that I've provided. It's a very good video done by one of the guys at the Foundry, and he covers all of the action centers in depth, and it paces very well. So I recommend that. Okay, but we'll go over the main ones here that you're going to use all day long. Okay, so first of all, the main default action center is none. Okay, and what this means is when you have a selection and you activate a tool, it aligns to the average of that selection in the world axes. Okay. X, Y, Z. All right. Automatic is the same thing. The only difference is that in item mode, you can move it by clicking, as we've discussed in other videos, whereas normally in item mode with a none action center, you can't. So this only affects being able to reposition your gizmo in item mode. So none and automatic are essentially the same. Okay. Now, one you'll use the most, I would say, aside from just none. Let's go ahead and loop these polygons. Okay, let's grow. Let's bring up the move tool. Is selection. Okay. You see what's happening here. This aligns to the average of your selection, but also in its own custom direction. So it knows that the cylinder is oriented this direction, even though I don't, have any. If I undo that, you don't really have anything telling it that. It just knows based on the selection of polygons, the orientation of the polygons. Okay, so the hotkey for that is Alt S. Okay, if you hit Alt S, brings up selection action center. If you hit Alt S again, it goes away. Okay, and now you can get your perfect, basically object orientation in Maya. Okay. And you don't have to do any freezing or customizing, clicking, aligning it to this component, and then, telling it to pin. You just hit Alt S, okay, and it'll give you that. All right. So that's your selection. Okay, selection is probably the number one aside from none. All right, now let's talk about local. So if I hit Alt X, okay, it switches me to local. Okay, local. Now it doesn't look like anything happened between Alt S, Alt X. That's because the selection action mode looks at the local direction of your polygons, and so does local. The difference is let's grab, what's a good example of local? Let's grab let me hit 3. I'm going to double click this guy, and then I'm going to hit Shift H to hide all other polys. Okay. If I wanted to grab, let's grab some polys here. Up. Whoops. Let's go 2 polys and then go up, and then 2 polys, up. Okay, and you can see these aren't even on the same area. Let's bevel them out. Let's hit B to bevel and bevel these guys out a little bit. All right. If I was in Maya and I wanted to scale, if I was like, I beveled these and I dropped my extrude tool and I was like, shoot, I really wanted to scale all these in to themselves. Okay. You can't really do that in Maya. You'd have to do it on one and then mirror your item around. All right, you can with the local action center. Okay, so when I hit Alt X to go to local, you see it picks a polygon and aligns to it. Okay, but now when I scale this, I had an extra bevel in there somewhere. Let's go ahead and re-bevel these guys out. Let's hit Mesh Cleanup. Okay. Make that selection again. My apologies, I don't recall shift clicking, but I must have. Let's bring up our scale tool, and we have local action center still active. So if I scale this guy now, you see what happens? It's not going all off into space. It's looking at the local normal of all these polys to themselves and basically giving you an invisible gizmo at each of these. And then just giving you one master one to manipulate with, okay? So this is super cool. One of the reasons why I love modeling in Modo is because it's really hard to get this in Maya or some other 3D apps. All right. So let's go ahead and in Polygon mode still, we're going to hit U to unhide everything. Okay, we got this kind of wacky guy here. We can fix that later. Okay. So that's your local action center. All right, now, like I said, if I'm in, let's say I'm in item mode, okay, and we've got none, and I show you my gizmo, right? It's where we put the center, the item center in the last video. Let's say I want to, let's say it's here, okay, and I want to rotate it around the origin. Instead of snapping the center over and then doing a rotation, why don't we just go to Action Center, Origin, and then we can rotate around the origin. Okay. The best part is when I hit Q and I hit 7, see where that center is? It's still in the same spot and it moves with the item. Okay, because the action center is what we in item mode, the action center is what we where the operation happened, but it did not affect the item center. Okay. So as you can see, origin's really handy. So origin's really handy when you're doing particular things like we want to leave our item center here, right? But we want to mirror this guy across. We don't want to have to snap our center over to the center of the grid or make a group and then do it over and then unparent it from the group or whatever. So let's go into Polygon mode here. We have 12 polys selected because we have these guys selected. Let's select them all. Okay, we're going to select the whole thing. Okay, and then we know that we have our action center at the origin. If I had a tool active, it would show that. Let's drop the tool with Q, and we're going to hit mirror. Okay, and then we're going to mirror in the X. We're going to mirror in the Y. Okay, in this instance. All right, so see what happened there? It automatically put the location of the mirror tool. It's not just for rotate, move, and scale. Okay, it's for all of your tools. The action center is where the tools happen. Okay, so just remember that. All right, now let me show you this last one. This is a really handy action center as well, and this is going to remind you of Maya. Okay, so if for whatever reason you have a very specific thing you need to do, all right, so if selection's just not getting it done, like even if I had this edge selected and I went selection, it's going to align to that edge. Okay, but let's just say, and there are plenty of cases of this, and you'll see it when we start modeling stuff. I do use this a fair amount. In fact, let's try this. Let's select these polys right here, and if I were to go selection, it would give me what I want, but let's say I want it to go off this away. Okay, so let's go to element. So let's go to action center, element, and now we have it's way off over here because we haven't told it where to be yet. All right, so next, when you left click a component, see how they're pre-highlighting still, and we don't have select through on, or it won't work. When you click, it automatically moves and aligns the action center to that component and snaps it there. Okay, so now if I move it over here, drag this gizmo, okay, we've got element. All right. Okay, and you can get very specific, whatever action center you need. All right. Now something important to note is if I switch to selection and do something and then go back to element, it's still gonna be kind of trying to remember the last element action center that you set. All right, so that's element. All right, so let's hit Alt-Z to turn off element. Alt-Z is element. Okay, so those are really the main ones. Don't obsess over all the rest of these. There are some other ones that are useful with animation, but those are your main ones. Okay, is none, selection, local, origin, and element. All right. So let's go ahead and shut this video down, and in the next video I'm going to briefly do an intro to the work plane.